February 24, 2022. The world watched in shock as Russia commenced a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. A direct conflict of this magnitude in Europe seemed unthinkable. But while the physical warfare surprised many, cyber attacks were not as unexpected as the armed conflict. In fact, Russia has been targeting Ukraine with cyber attacks since 2014. Let's discuss one of the most notorious cyber attacks on Ukraine. The attack on Ukraine's power grid that occurred on December 23, 2015. This attack, believed to have originated from Russia, was dubbed Black Energy after the malware used by the Advanced Persistent Threat. It is associated with a group known as Sandworm. This nasty piece of work specifically targeted the infrastructure of Ukraine's power grid, causing extensive disruptions and demonstrating vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure. The attack resulted in power outage for over 230,000 consumers. The attackers exploited Microsoft Word macros to deploy the Trojan. And this wasn't some quickly thrown-together operation. It was carefully and meticulously planned and involved spear phishing, a form of phishing that's specifically targeted at certain individuals or groups. Another instance that really illustrates the lengths to which the Russians were willing to go to launch cyber attacks against Ukraine is the NotPetya cyber attack.
The cyber weapon NotPetya started in Ukraine in June of 2017. It quickly spread, paralyzing major companies and causing more than $10 billion in damage.
This cyber attack is tied back to that same notorious Sandworm group, operating under the umbrella of the GRU, Russia's military intelligence agency. NotPetya wasn't just another piece of malware. It was a meticulously crafted weapon of disruption. When NotPetya struck in 2017, the world witnessed an unprecedented level of cyber chaos. Many Ukrainian banks, media outlets, and transportation systems were affected. Over 80 companies fell victim, including the National Bank of Ukraine. While the vast majority of the infections, over 80%, were in Ukraine, the attack also rippled out internationally, affecting major companies like the Danish shipping titan Myers, which reported losses upward of $300 million. Unfortunately, these weren't isolated incidents, but rather calculated moves in a grander scheme of nation-state warfare. As the invasion loomed, the frequency and severity of these attacks intensified. Living under the constant danger of cyber attacks became a grim reality as the invasion unfolded. Microsoft has released a report that effectively summarizes the prevailing situation. They collaborated closely with Ukrainian government representatives and cybersecurity personnel across different sectors to identify and mitigate these cyber threats. The report states, at least 6 Russian advanced persistent threat actors and other unattributed threats have conducted destructive attacks, espionage operations, or both. However, this only scratches the surface, covering the most significant, visible cyber attacks. There's no doubt a whole lot more went on under the radar, with attacks and disruptions of all sizes happening. In the invasion's initial week, 22 destructive incidents were recorded, each deploying different types of malware. Even though, during the second week, Microsoft observed no destructive events, in the ensuing weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6, Ukraine saw a range of cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure sectors. These cyber operations had the potential to negatively affect the government, military, economy, and the citizens at large. While many Ukrainians went to the front lines, others saw a different way to fight back. They knew battles could also be won online. That's when the IT army of Ukraine came into play, taking the fight to cyberspace. It was time to go counter-offensive. The idea for the IT army of Ukraine emerged during a meeting between Yegor Oshev, a Ukrainian entrepreneur, and the Ukrainian Minister of Digital Transformation, Mikhailo Fedorov. They discussed the defense of Ukraine's digital infrastructure against Russian cyber attacks. As the situation demanded immediate action, the IT army of Ukraine was announced publicly shortly after the invasion began. The Ukrainian Minister of Digital Transformation himself made this announcement on Twitter. To understand Yegor Oshev's role as someone who contributed to the creation of this army of volunteers, It's worth emphasizing that he is the co-founder of 3 cybersecurity companies: Cyber Unit Tech, Cyber School, and Hacken.io. He is also considered one of the leading Ukrainian cybersecurity experts. Over the 8 years of war with Russia, he played a pivotal role in enhancing Ukraine's cybersecurity and trained various Ukrainian ministries and public organizations. Yegor revealed that in the first month of the war, nearly 1,000 cyber experts joined the IT army. Their primary mission: to stop the war. This number represents only the core members collaborating directly with Ukraine's government. The total number, including those who participated in operations announced by the IT Army of Ukraine, is significantly greater. If Kyiv falls, we keep hacking Putin. These powerful words illustrates the unyielding spirit of the Army of Ukraine. The message is clear. They will keep fighting to protect their freedom. The initiative caught the eye of hackers worldwide. Many of them were elite-level professionals with a strong track record as white-hat hackers. A few hacktivist groups have also joined the activity. For example, the largest anonymous account on Twitter declared war on the Russian government. Telegram was chosen by the IT Army as their primary communication platform. They established a public channel, and anyone interested in supporting the cause was invited. The response was overwhelming. Within the initial days of the invasion, the channel amassed over 160,000 members. By March 27, that number peaked at over 307,000. While the count has since decreased, it remains substantial with around 161,000 active members. Why such a rapid growth in member numbers? As global attention was focused on Ukraine, many felt helpless but wanted to help in some way. For those familiar with technology and keyboards, the IT Army provided an avenue to contribute, a chance to actually make a difference. The word spread like wildfire. Everywhere you looked, whether on Twitter, the evening news, or even LinkedIn, events in Ukraine were in the spotlight. One notable aspect of the resistance was the IT Army of Ukraine. Even IT recruiters on LinkedIn were inviting people to participate. While many people joined the IT Army of Ukraine, it's important to note that not all tasks involved high-level hacking. The tasks shared with the public were designed to be comprehensible and achievable by a broad audience. The most significant portion of the IT Army consists of mobilized cyber volunteers tasked with executing DDoS attacks on Russian assets, primarily targeting civilian Russian infrastructure like online pharmacies, banks, food delivery services, and retailers. The second part of the cyber army is more mysterious, with fewer operations being publicly disclosed. This group likely consists of Ukrainian defense and intelligence experts. It operates more like an inner circle where, to gain entry, individuals must not only identify themselves but also have an existing member vouch for them. Among their duties is the collection of intelligence on the war and potential targets within Russia for the Ukrainian government. For those not in the inner circle, instructions on how to contribute were publicly available. Initially, the group's activities were less organized, with most instructions provided on their Telegram channel. For instance, volunteers were tasked with identifying travel locations of oligarchs, Instagram accounts of oligarchs' close relatives, phone numbers of the Russian elite, and more. The targets for DDoS attacks were also posted on the Telegram channel. These targets would change periodically, especially when the current target faced significant traffic, making it unnecessary to further increase the bandwidth. There were also requests for tasks like reporting YouTube channels that spread misinformation about the war in Ukraine. Over time, the instructions became more structured and tools accessible to those with varying technical expertise were developed. For instance, by visiting the IT Army of Ukraine's official website, one can find the necessary instructions to participate. Please note, this overview is for educational purposes only, aimed at explaining the workings of the IT Army of Ukraine, not endorsing it. The official website provides detailed guidelines for DDoS attacks, which serve as the primary means for outsiders to assist in the IT Army operations. The platform offers a range of tools compatible with different operating systems. Volunteers have the flexibility to run DDoS tools on Windows, Linux, or Mac. For each operating system, there are multiple tool options available. On Windows, users can either use an installer to get the required software or employ tools within Docker containers. For Linux, some tools require technical skills for installation, but there's also the convenience of using Docker containers. Instructions are also available for Mac users, catering to both Intel and M1 processors. Tools can either be installed as standalone software or operated within Docker containers. Furthermore, for those who want to allocate their resources to support the IT Army's objectives, there's an automated bot designed for DDoS attacks. Individuals can relay their server credentials to this Telegram bot, enabling their server to be used for cyber attacks. All of these cyber volunteers made their mark. The Russian infrastructure was significantly impacted by cyber attacks over a span of 1.5 years. While likely the most sensitive attacks remain undisclosed, a number of high-profile cyber attacks have attracted media attention. Here are a few. On February 27, 2022, numerous Russian government websites experienced outages. The volume of volunteers that joined the IT Army in the first days had amplified the impact. A day later, on February 28, the IT Army compromised the Moscow Stock Exchange's website, rendering it inaccessible within minutes. Even Sberbank, one of Russia's largest banks, wasn't spared. Other notable targets of the IT Army included Russia's power grids and railways. During a 2-week span from June 27 to July 10, the IT Army targeted over 800 Russian websites, including the state space corporation Roscosmos. Many of these websites were defaced with messages congratulating Ukraine on their Constitution Day. According to the Ukraine Ministry of Digital Transformation, in just 5 months, the IT Army had disrupted over 6,000 Russian web resources. One particularly disruptive cyber incident involved hacking Yandex taxi systems, in collaboration with the Anonymous Collective. This attack resulted in a massive traffic jam in Moscow by redirecting all taxis to Moscow's Hotel Ukraine. The IT Army also claimed responsibility for compromising the Wagner Group, a Russian private military contractor, extracting personal data of its mercenaries and subsequently revealing images of dead soldiers on Wagner's own platform. In a symbolic gesture, the IT Army breached the Collective Security Treaty Organization's website on October 7, Vladimir Putin's birthday, offering a bold wish for his last birthday. While these represent significant milestones during the initial year of the war, countless smaller-scale cyber attacks were carried out with promises of more to come. In light of escalating hacker activity and global conflicts, the International Committee of the Red Cross introduced guidelines for cyber warfare participation. Key provisions include prohibitions against cyber attacks on civilian infrastructure, self-replicating malware, digital offensives against medical and humanitarian establishments, and any operation infringing international humanitarian law. While the IT Army of Ukraine has refrained from targeting medical facilities, it remains to be seen whether the other guidelines will be heeded. The primary entity that wasn't pleased with the operations of the cyber army is undoubtedly Russia. A statement was released on their Ministry of Foreign Affairs website expressing their discontent. The Kyiv regime has announced international recruitment of anti-Russia IT professionals into offensive cyber forces. They further warned that the cyber aggression being waged against Russia will have dramatic consequences. In the past, the U.S. issued arrest warrants for numerous Russian hackers involved in various cyber operations. However, Russia largely ignored these warrants most of the time. Theoretically, Russia could issue arrest warrants for the cyber volunteers targeting them. However, they'd face the daunting task of prosecuting a significant portion of the cyber industry, which has been involved to varying degrees. Before doing so, they'd need to track and identify these individuals. Moreover, the countries where these cyber volunteers reside would need to enforce the Russian-issued warrants. A challenging proposition considering Russia's current international standing. But while the IT cyber army's operations are clearly disliked by Russia, where does the international community stand? The IT army is neither civilian nor military, neither public nor private, neither local nor international. So, the participation in the cyber attacks during a conflict remains a gray area. Hacking is a crime in most countries. According to the regulations respecting the laws and customs of war on land, Individuals participating in conflict can be termed as lawful combatants if they satisfy these criteria. They are commanded by a person responsible for their subordinates. They have a fixed, distinctive emblem recognizable at a distance. They carry their arms openly. They conduct operations in accordance with the laws and customs of war. Applying these criteria, it's difficult to categorize cyber volunteers as lawful combatants. This could suggest they are unlawful combatants and thus are neither protected by the Geneva Conventions nor granted the rights of prisoners of war. On the other hand, participating in a DDoS attacks might not necessarily categorize one as a combatant, whether lawful or not. Many conducting such attacks on Russian infrastructure might be considered civilians. Not all IT Army volunteers directly participate in cyber operations that qualify as direct participation in hostilities. Currently, there's no public record of individuals prosecuted for their involvement in the IT Army of Ukraine. However, participants could potentially become targets for Russia. Can cyber attacks end a real war? As we've seen, these digital battles can disrupt and even damage, but it's still uncertain if they can truly replace the physical act of war. What's clear is that they're changing the game, making war more complex than ever. As we move forward, the line between the digital and the physical may blur even more, but for now, the answer remains elusive. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share.